Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Making Online Easy podcast, the roofing edition. My name is Esteban Baez, and together with Frankie Soroka, today we're going to be discussing the topic: what is the best way to handle a bad roofing review? Frankie, what's going on, my brother?
What's going on, Esteban? I'm back at it again. What's going on, my roofing people? Hope you guys are doing well. Another banger here for you. It's gonna be
Yes,
a big
yes.
eye opener. So yeah, I'm pumped.
That's awesome, man. Listen, this podcast or video podcast, wherever you're consuming this content, is for you. If you own a roofing business and you're seeking to grow it and scale it, maybe you're stuck at four figures and you want to grow it to five, six, or maybe even seven figures. These are the topics that we're and the types of conversations that we're going to be discussing on every episode. And today's episode is going to be fire. So you want to stay tuned and you want to listen to everything we have to say and you want to implement, make sure you take action on the advice that we're going to give today. So, Frankie, you ready to go to start with this, brother?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. This is gonna be a good one. A lot of people struggle with with roofing reviews, and a lot of people we've been at, have talked about this, and it's a common struggle. So yeah, I think a lot of people are gonna get a lot of value from this. So I'm excited. Let's get it.
Let's do it, man. So let's start with the question. What's
Let's
the
get it.
first thing somebody should do when they get, a bad review, right? So let's say,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm a business owner. I just served somebody's roof, right?
yeah.
And in my opinion, I did a great job.
Of
But the
course.
customer, for whatever reason, has a complaint. They go on Google and instead of calling me directly, asking me to fix it or whatever, they go on Google and they complain and they totally talk negative about my roofing company. What is the first thing I should do, brother?
Yeah, great question. And again, very common, very common. So if this happened to you, like don't feel terrible, don't feel bad, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, like it is what it is. But the good news is there is ways around it. So let's get into the first one. Number one is you want to get in contact with the person that wrote the review and you want to resolve that matter, right? That should be your main focus before anything else. We're gonna get into some other things, but the first thing is very simple. Just reach out to them, contact them, get in touch with them. There's a couple different ways you can do that. So you can obviously look at the review. You should be able to find their name or their account, right? And from there you can reach out, or you can look at their information online and other platforms, their Facebook, maybe their Instagram, maybe their email. You never know, right? And you can essentially find out that information and get in contact with them, right? And that's the best way to just resolve it internally. Make sure that you guys can do your best before it gets out into the public, right? It already is in the public sort of to an extent, but if you can resolve it internally and then come back and make sure that it's resolved, 9 times out of 10 they're either going to either remove the review, or they're willing to even modify the review, or kind of, I've seen this as well, where it's like an update. So they have the original review and then they share like an update underneath of like what's happened since they wrote the review. And the update typically could be like a good update, like, hey, the roofer got in touch with me, we were able to figure out a solution. So the first thing is get in contact with the actual reviewer. That should be number one.
Yeah, I think timing is everything when these things happen. Don't delay it. That's the other thing is that a lot of people they see the negative review and they feel hopeless. They feel, I can't do anything about it, or they try to flag it or something like that. Don't do that, especially if the person was somebody who was a real customer, right? If they were
Right.
a real customer, timing is everything. Get in contact with them right away and see if you guys can solve the issue and create a win-win situation for the customer and also for yourself.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? Like, it could totally have been, something that maybe you slipped your mind, or they forgot, or even maybe they just had wrong expectations. Maybe they, heard from somebody else that this was expected, and maybe it didn't happen. So,
Yeah.
communication 9 times out of 10 will solve everything. So before you freak out, before you're like, oh, this is the worst person ever. Like, literally take those extra 2 minutes to find this person and talk to them like human beings, right? We're all human beings here. we, like I said, we all make mistakes. We can all easily correct them as well. So you'd be surprised, you'd be surprised how quickly you can turn it around if they just see like, okay, you know what, I'm a human being. And not only that, people want to feel heard, right? Stefan, you know all about this. Like, people want to feel heard. People want to feel like they are being listened to and that their voice means something and that they're not just talking into the wind and people are like going in one ear and out the other, right? So just listening to them might be enough to turn the entire review around.
Yeah, that's exactly true. A lot of people just want to be heard. And the fact that you had the courage to call them. I mean, I've had situations where I've had to call people that were extremely angry and upset. And all I had to do was use basically something that I like to call mirrors and labels, right? What is that? If I call somebody and they're extremely angry and upset, instead of me getting defensive and arguing, I simply use a mirror and or a label and say, man, it sounds like what I did made you really angry or upset, right? So taking responsibility of the situation is key, because if you take responsibility, you can now do something about it, right? It versus saying, oh, this person is really trying to hurt my business, and and perceiving it as you have no power or influence in the matter. Picking up the phone, calling somebody and say, hey, listen, I just went online and I read the review, and it sounds like there might have been a misunderstanding on my end. Is there anything we could potentially work out so that we can maybe at least edit the review or have the opportunity to make the wrong right, if truly there's something that you can do or want to do about it, right? There are cases where people are just totally unreasonable, and people have wrong expectations. And in those scenarios where someone is just extremely, I call it delusional, right? They're totally delusional and they're writing stuff that never even happened, never was promised to them, and they're just going wild with their imagination. When those things happen, I would probably, still attempt to reach out and kind of at least listen to their complaint. And if I can offer something, then I would, but if I can, I would just offer a sincere and honest apology, a diplomatic apology, right? What's a diplomatic apology? Basically saying, listen, I heard you. It sounds like you expected A, B, and C, or X, Y, Z. And for some reason you did not hear that we did not offer those services, right? And then just leave it at that. Sometimes you're just gonna have to put up with a negative review on your listing, right? But
Yeah.
don't ignore it. Reach out, because you'll be surprised. you know More times out of the few times that you do this, more times you'll get actually someone to change their response.
Yeah, 100%. And I love what you said there. I think it's a great segue here to the to the next one, right? Because you're already mentioning some really good points here. But of course, get in touch with them. Speed is critical there. And like I said, let's move into the second one, because it's already pretty much right on track with that, which was respond to the negative review diplomatically. That's exactly what it is, guys.
Oh, dude.
It's like Esteban knew, man. Esteban knew. It was
Yeah.
beautiful. It was beautiful. But what I will say about this is that we're all guilty of getting defensive, getting judgmental. Sometimes our ego gets the best of us. We have certain, we have a long day. We had a bad day, whatever the case is. So it's totally understandable for someone to make the mistake of not, responding diplomatically, but that's still not an excuse to make that mistake, right? So we're telling you, like, look, we're all human. We're not saying we're perfect. People do the mistake, but you don't have to be that person, right? Like, you can act diplomatically beforehand and go in knowing that this is a more effective strategy than you, hey, no, blah blah blah, starts getting in the back and forth, and it's not helping anybody, right? The customer's still going to be upset, right? And now you're upset, and now everyone can see that you're upset and everyone's upset. It's not helping anything, right? So responding in the non-defensive or judgmental way is key. And honestly, like, that is the trick, right? Because a lot of people, they want to feel like we talked about already, feel heard, but also they want someone that has a strong voice, a strong message, that has a strong understanding of the situation, right? You don't want someone that's like either emotional, right? You don't want someone that doesn't feel like they're in control. None of that. You want someone that is in control and that like, hey, look, this happened, but we already have a plan to solve it. We already have been proactively looking for a solution. This is what we have in mind. Are you open to hearing it? Right? Like that all of a sudden, regardless if I'm pissed, I'm going to at least like listen and my guard's gonna go down because like this person sounds like all right, like they understand that something wrong went down here, whether if it was right or not, but now they're actually wanting to take control of the situation and I'm willing to listen because they care enough to come up with a plan to try to resolve this. So it shows in many levels that you care, that you guys are professional, that you know what you're doing, that there's just a lot of good things radiate off of that. So yeah, I think that's super key.
Yeah, and there's another thing about responding, right? When you actually respond to the negative review, it is because you attempted to get the person to change it, right? And they didn't change it. So for whatever reason, you couldn't get it changed. So now you're going to go ahead and kind of show your side of the story. So when you show your side of the story, you really want to show how you treat your worst customer in a
Right.
sense, right? And if you can treat your worst customer with kindness and respect, people will see that in your response. And even though they're reading the negative review, they're hearing the way you respond to it. And it can really still give them the feeling of, I like this guy. Even though they saw a negative review, they can say, I like this company because look at how they handle this negative response, right? So that's why it's so valuable for you to never respond to a negative review while you're feeling any type of emotion of anger or self-righteousness. I'm going to show this guy. Don't do that because people will read through your emotion, right? So wait a
Yes.
while. I would write the review on a different platform. I would write the response, sit on it, show someone else the response someone you respect, that could give you some feedback on your response, and make sure it doesn't sound too defensive and
Right.
too much of like, we told you. I've seen some really interesting ones. We told you that we weren't going to do XYZ and you purchased anyways. Like, as an owner, if you write that as a response, it makes you look bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you may
Yeah.
you want to respond, you want to acknowledge the negative review. Don't pretend it's not there, just acknowledge it. Thank the person for leaving their feedback, and then make a quick promise of, if you do give us an opportunity to correct the situation, we will be more than happy to correct it within reason, right? You'll be more happy to correct the situation. Or if you decide to come back again, we're going to offer you something because of the negative experience you had this time. We're going to offer you something as an apology, right? It's okay to admit wrongdoing. If you guys were legitly wrong, it's okay to diplomatically say, it really sounds like we overlooked something in your case. And using phrases like that, you got to be careful. You want to admit wrong, but with caution, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to say, you don't want to you don't want to, in a sense, incriminate yourself either and be like, we just don't pay attention, So,
Right.
but
Right.
but you admit the wrong and say, it sounds like we made a mistake. It's okay for us to be human and make a mistake, but we will do our best to correct it. That's basically the spirit of the response.
Yes. Yeah. And one point I really like what you mentioned there is, everyone's gonna see this review and they're gonna see this response, right? So like, yes, you're responding to this one review, but in reality, you're responding to every single person in the future that's ever gonna see your listing, and that's gonna look at your reviews, right? Regardless if they've never even had an experience with you ever, before they even call you, some people are gonna go in there and just the fact that that one review could change the whole game, right? That one, and for positive or for negative, right? Just because of that one review. So if they see that you act, you're blaming the customer and you're saying this is not our fault, we're perfect, then the person's like, I haven't had a negative experience with these guys, but look at how they treat their negative customers, right? So that right there, you're losing a ton of business right off bat because of your negative response, right? On the flip side, if you respond to them like someone was saying, in a positive way, in a helpful way, in a meaningful way, where you're listening to them, then they're gonna be like, wow, like I've never dealt with these guys, but look, even their negative reviews, they are, being positive and they're looking for solutions and they're very helpful. So it really is more than just that one review, right? It's really like it's something that's gonna stick with you, right? There's reviews from 5 years ago that people still read. Go on Amazon, people still look at old reviews. Go on Google, go on these places. Those reviews are still relevant, right? They're still relevant, especially if it's a 1-star or something. Like, people will still look at those reviews. A lot of people, here's a trick I see people do. They go to the reviews and it could be 99% 5 stars. But if there's 1 or 2 or 3 1-star, people will click the 1-star and they just want to read the 1-star. Even though it's an overwhelming tsunami of positive, they want to know what's the worst experience that these people had. Because a lot of people, they understand there could be a bunch of fluffed up reviews, but I want to know, like, what's the worst, what's the worst case. So people are still going to look at those reviews. So keep that in mind. It goes beyond just that one person, right? It's going, for decades possibly even. So just, be very diplomatic, be intelligent with how you respond. Yeah. And that's it. You don't have nothing to worry about it as long as you do that. And another thing you can do is you can also mention, like, hey, look, like, we've dealt with such and such many customers, or we've been in business for such and such amount of time. Like, you can explain that, like, like, this is not common, this is not usual, that you guys normally have a wonderful experience, and it's very unfortunate that this is one of those rare instances where this happens. So you're also telling them and everybody else reading that this is not common, right? It seems so obvious, but including it in there and explaining that this is not normally how we do things, and like, if it is a mistake, then then now the person feels like, okay, maybe I was the one exception that went wrong, right? Stuff happens. So now, instead of them thinking, oh my God, they treat everybody like this, I bet you they do this to everybody, it's like, no, this is a rare situation and we're gonna make it right. Now the whole thing has been diffused. Now everybody sees that, okay, this is not common, and now everyone feels better about the whole situation. So yeah, again, respond diplomatically. That's really the main thing there.
Yeah, that's it, man. What's the next thing that they can do, Frankie?
The next thing, number 3, is flag all spam reviews. Okay, so this is a very popular subject, okay, because I'm sure a lot of people have dealt with this, where you get a review and maybe the review doesn't have a photo, maybe it doesn't even have it's one of those, like, profiles that are empty that someone just creates out of nowhere, or that has no reviews at all in the past, but all of a sudden you have a 1-star review, you have a terrible experience. Maybe you don't even remember this person. Maybe this
they're not even on your database.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. You're like, how the heck did this get here? Like, where did this review come? Who is this person? Right. And then you'll say you tried contacting them and all that. But sometimes you even know, right? Sometimes you're like, hold on a second, man. What is this? This is a spam review, or this is a competitor, or this is a hater. Because unfortunately that's what it is, right? A big, guy that we both followed for quite some time. It's like the more you get known, the more haters you're gonna get, right? So the better you perform, the better your site performs, the more marketing you're doing, the more eyeballs you're getting in front of. It's almost inevitable. You're gonna get some kind of, spam or some kind of, hater type of situation. So it's obviously something that we need to take care of, and we're going to talk about how to fix that, number 1. But you should also look at it as a positive sign that you're doing the right thing, that you are in the right direction, that you are getting known, right? You got to get known, and it comes with the territory. So it's part of it.
Don't obsess about having a perfect listing with no negative reviews on it, because that's also something that is not normal, right? If it's all perfect, somebody's gonna start wondering,
right?
Maybe I don't know if I want to go there. There's no such thing as all positive review, business that only gets positive reviews, right? So welcome some of those negative reviews. The ratio is what matters. are you getting more positive than negatives, right? And then also, if it looks fishy, like if you know that this was somebody that you did not serve, if somebody that that's not a client, and you try to reach out and you don't get a response back, then I would probably, I think the sequence here would be to flag it, and then to also, if it doesn't get removed, then to respond to it and say to the person and say, hey, listen, we've searched in our database of previous customers. We do not see that we served your home under the name here. We are trying to resolve the issue with you. So please let us know who you are and see if this is even us that served your listing.
Right.
Because it might be another roofing company,
Right.
and they're thinking it's your roofing company, right?
Yeah.
So, and they just picked any roofer and just started complaining, right?
Yeah,
So,
or they have a similar name. I've seen that. I've seen like
right,
two roofing companies that are very similar, very, very similar, maybe one letter off or like, you know what I mean? And they could have been, oh, it meant to be for this other company and they actually wrote it on yours. Very true. That's a very good
right,
point. Very good
right.
point. Yeah.
So yeah. So I
Be
would
careful.
first flag it and tell Google what's going on. And if Google doesn't remove it for whatever reason, wait a couple of weeks and then go ahead and respond and say, hey, it looks like this might be there might be a mistake review.
Hmm.
Start it
Yeah.
off with like that and say, we've searched our database, we've looked to see if we served your property, and just go from there and see where that leads. If they respond to that, and many times just by doing that alone, they'll delete the review and
Yeah.
then go put it in the right place. So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have I have seen that where you reply letting them know, hey, you're you're confusing us with another company. It's not us. We never service your roof,
Right.
and you can do that by the name. Sometimes it's tricky because if it's an older person that doesn't do, they might tell their kid or their son or daughter, who's an adult, to write the review, right? To
Right.
so
Right.
then now they're under a different name, so you know. But you
That is
usually
true. That is
but
true.
usually they admit it. They say, "No, I am so and so's, daughter, and you did my mom's roof." Like, and then you'll be like,
Right. Right.
but now you can engage, right,
Yes.
into a conversation and see if you can have an opportunity to at least, I guess, fix, correct the situation
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
could.
yeah. No, I like that a lot what you said there because again back to what we're saying in number two is by you mis responding to them and mentioning the fact that like, hey, we've done the effort of looking for your name, like we're trying to find this job, like it's there's a lot of things being communicated there that you care, that you're putting some work in, that so describing all the steps that you took to resolve the matter, that's huge, right? That right there is huge to kind of show that like that you care and that other people reading this are going to see that. Okay, so and then even if it is a spam or fake or a competitor or whoever, the fact that you're responding, again, it goes into it. So you're basically pushing the ball back into their court. So they're basically saying terrible experience, whatever. Sometimes they don't even put anything, just put a 1 star, and then you respond and you're telling them, hey, look, this is obviously not our goal. We want to make sure that we service all of our clients. We don't have you on our files here. Would you mind letting us know where you have a different name on file, like all these things, and then explaining that this is not common practice, right? What we talked about earlier, everything that we just talked about, but it's all being seen, right? So even if it's a spam review, it's still worthy of including all the stuff we talked about to make sure that even if it doesn't get removed, other people are going to see that and be like, oh, that must have been a spam review because they never responded to the owner. And the owner specifically said, hey, we're looking for you. We can't find you in our system. This may have been a mistake. You may have got us confused or blah, blah, blah. So even if nothing gets resolved on paper, again, other people are going to see the entire conversation, the entire interaction, and that's going to get you out of that red zone of that situation of, making it seem like, you're a bad company and blah, 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 all this stuff. And then another thing, couple things also is engagement. I like that you said engagement. Here's something that a lot of people don't know. This is not, this is about reviews, but I'm going to give you guys an SEO tip. And this applies to just, a lot of things, but engagement, right? Engagement is key. So when you reply to reviews, you are triggering engagement, right? The listing is active. There's stuff going on. There's people talking. So one of the strategies that we do, and we to recommend all of our roofers to do, is to whenever someone leaves a review, respond, but also like it, like their review, because you can like a review, you can like a comment, stuff like that. All of that is considered engagement. So all of that helps getting visibility, getting the listing shown, making sure the listing is active and alive. Google likes that. So even if you're trying to resolve an issue over here, Google's showing you even more over there because it's showing that, you know, you guys are active. So that's another good sign. And the last thing I'd say, because we're on the topic of spam, is if you have already tried all these, you've exhausted all your options, then what you could do is get your friends, family, get different Google accounts, get as many people as you can, and have them all flag that review and give the exact same reason that it's spam or that it's you know, it's a robot or whatever. And not just because if you just do it yourself, yes, there's a chance it'll fix. But if you have more people doing it, then it's more of a signal for Google that, like, okay, this has been more than one person saying that this is a wrong review. So maybe we should do something about this, right? Now, that doesn't mean that every negative review you should do this, because it's not going to work like that. It has to be a spam review, has to be a review that, you know, is not a real review. If it's a real customer, this is not going to work, right? It's not going to go away. And if anything, it's just like, you know, it's bad juju, right? You're just hurting yourself. You don't want to
don't flag reviews that are real, you know?
Yeah, no. It has to be spam. Has to be spam.
Yeah. And if they don't get removed, Frankie, right? If they don't get removed, you got to wait some time, right? Because sometimes Google takes a while, but if Google does not remove it, it's there. So then try to address it. You know, if it doesn't get removed, it's there. And you know, usually my experience, Frankie, is when you flag a review, it doesn't really disappear. I've never.
It doesn't. So that's why I'll give this last tip, and then we can move on to the next one, because this is going to be a whole nother video with it. But right. What you can also do is there's something called a local guide account. Okay, so again, we're getting into like we're getting some interesting territory here, but all I can really say is that local guide accounts are more powerful than regular accounts, and there's level 4, level 5, level 6, level 8, 9, 10. So the stronger, the higher powerful Google local guide account that you have, the higher chance that review will go away if you flag it. So if you have a level 10 Google local guide account, or a level 8, even a level 4, then I recommend using that to flag it, and that will increase the chances. Because Esteban's right. If you have a regular Google account, it's very unlikely that anything's going to happen, unfortunately. What increases those chances are getting your whole family and friends to do it. But what increases the chances even more is having a local guide level X account, right? But again, like, we're not going to get into how to make those or all that. That's a whole other subject. But it's just a little tip I want to throw in.
You always got the little extra sauce.
Yeah, I mean, just a tip. All right, let's get to the last one. The last one. You ready?
This is it. Let's do it, man. We got one more to share today, guys, and it's stack positive reviews. Bury it with positivity that speaks against what was said.
Boom. So this is powerful. So, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but I mean, you know, how do you bury a negative review? Maybe you tried everything. You tried all the steps we talked about. Still there, right? Still affecting your business. Very simple. Do a better job, right? Do an excellent job. Do an unbelievable job. Get more reviews. Get double, triple, quadruple, 10 times the amount of the negative reviews, right? Bury it. Like, there's a service called reputation management. Okay, this is how they handle reputation management. Okay, you guys ready? This is what they do. Okay, they do not delete any negative press. It's impossible. You can't delete negative. People think that's what reputation management is. No, reputation management is not deleting press. Reputation management is bury the press, the negative press, with positive press. So when people are looking, all they see is good stuff, right? So if you have, you know, 3 reviews and 2 of them are 1 star, that's very bad. That's a very bad look. Now, if you have 50 reviews and only 1 of them is 1 star and the rest are 5 or 4, now that's not bad. Now we're in good territory, right? So it could be the same listing, but just the only difference is the volume, right? So you want to stack those positive reviews And I mean, it should be, if you're doing a great job, if you're doing your job how you should be, then it shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be a problem. And there's automation in place, and this is stuff that we do, we implement for all of our clients. There's ways to automate a lot of the review getting process, and I think we even did a whole episode on how to get more reviews. So definitely check out that episode if you want to know how to get more reviews. And that's one thing you can do to snowball these positive reviews. But that's the best way to handle that.
Yeah, on stacking reviews, it's the only proactive thing you can do. Is every time you service a customer, you want to have a system in place, so that you can encourage them to leave a review, a positive review on your listing, right? If you know the customer was not a pleasant person to work with, then I wouldn't go out of my way to encourage them to leave a review. But if you know that they had an excellent experience with you, you want to have a system in place so
Right.
that you're generating a healthy amount of reviews every single month. So, what's a healthy amount? If you are servicing, let's say, 40 roofs, anywhere between 40 to 100 roofs per month, you should at least collect 20% of reviews out of everybody that you're servicing, right? So if you're servicing, you know, 40 people, you should have at least like 8 reviews coming in, something like that, right? Am I doing the math right, Frankie?
Yeah, no, you definitely
Yeah,
want to have a good amount of it. And that's where the
right.
automation comes in, right? The automation, because if it's
Yeah.
automated, then you don't even need to think about how many should I send out, how many, just everybody gets it, right? Everybody gets it. Now, obviously, the negative people, you might be afraid. But now here's something else called review gating. I don't know if you heard about this, but review gating is where you basically send people a link to leave a review. And the first question that it asks them is, did you have a positive or a negative experience? If they have a positive experience, they click it, it'll redirect them straight to Google so they can post a review. If it's a negative experience, it does not forward them over to Google. Instead, it'll have a pop-up that comes up and it says, we're sorry to hear that. Please let us know, where can we improve, or what was your experience, so we can contact you and fix the issue. Now, notice that whole conversation happens internally inside of your website. The first one, the positive, happens on Google. So it's called review gating. So you
Now,
can
now, what are the
gate.
laws around that, Frank? Because I heard that wasn't allowed. Is it still something that is allowed? I think I'm not sure if it's within industries. Uh, is it?
Yes, that is true. Yeah, it's definitely something that was way more popular back then, and I know
Mm-hmm,
nowadays people are cracking down, especially in like medical industries or financial
mm-hmm.
situations. A lot of that, and definitely some has happened also in home services. So it is something you're gonna have to look into. I'm not saying everybody can do it, but I know some people are still able to make it happen, and there is ways kind of working around that, right? But yes, that is something to be cautious of and be wary of, and it might involve some manual approach that you need to incorporate in order to make it past the law. But you can still automate like part of it, part of the process, right? And then with that part, you might need to manually do it, but there is ways around it. So that's a good point. Yeah, definitely check your local area, check your laws. And that's something that working with a professional, that's something that we would do for you, right? And we will let you know beforehand. But yes, good point.
Yeah. Yeah, it may not be breaking the law, but you might be breaking some of Google's policies, right? So you wanna take a look at the policy, and some people risk it. You know what I mean? Like some people risk it, and they do review gating, and so I'm not against it. I'm not for it. I'm just saying, whatever you feel comfortable with,
Yeah, and
do
another
it.
thing is like it's a great point. That's Google's laws, but remember, there's other platforms, there's other places where you can get reviews from that maybe they don't have those laws, right? You can get Facebook
Exactly.
reviews, you can get BBB reviews. So there's other reviews out there, and then again, you can showcase all of them on your website. So you're right. Yeah, it is true. Google is definitely the toughest one that you want to be careful with. But yeah, that's a great point. There's other places as well.
Right, right. And yeah. So just be aware, right? But as a roofer, I think you want to do the gating through through the evaluation of the conversation.
Yeah,
Be
yeah,
in reality, that's really the best way to be to
it
be
is.
to be in alignment with the policy, right? Because they really, it's not like Google's going to come after you because they find out that you're doing review gating. It's really, I mean, I don't know. I've never
Yeah,
heard
well,
of Google
no, me neither.
shutting down a listing because they weren't doing review gating. You
Yeah,
know?
I haven't heard of that either. It would really require
Yeah.
like some in-depth like investigation. You know what I mean? So that's
Yeah.
why like it might not happen at all, but it's better to be safe than sorry. And Estelle makes a good point. You know, like it may not happen that often, but you don't want to be that one time that when it does happen. You
Right.
know,
Exactly.
so just yeah,
Exactly.
so just take it with a grain of salt. You know, and like you said, you can do it manually as well, right? You can do the whole process manually, or you can have a team member, a staff member that all they do is take care of that. They're in charge of making sure that they are sending out the link, that they're conversating with the customers, they're gathering the reviews if possible, they're following up. And here's another thing: maybe we don't do the review gating, but back to the automation, like having a follow up system, right? Like just because you ask once doesn't mean everyone's going to say, "Oh yeah, here's my review." People are busy. People have a million things going on. Maybe they genuinely want to leave a review, but they just have so much going on. They got stuff going on at home. They got family stuff, so they just forgot. So having someone there or having a system that'll follow up a week later, 2 weeks later, and be like, "Hey, just sending you a notification, see if you wouldn't mind leaving a review," right? And there's ways to automate that where you can see if they left a review or not, and then that way you're not messaging people that already left a review. So it can get very technical, but it's very possible to set this all up, to help you out with
It
that.
is. It is. So Frankie, let's do a quick recap, right? The best way to
Yeah.
handle a bad roofing review. Number one, get in contact with the person that wrote the review and see if you can work something out to resolve the matter. Number two, you should respond to the negative review diplomatically. Avoid being defensive or judgmental. Number three, if you know that you're getting a spam review, make sure you flag it. Okay, you can flag spam reviews. And the last one was stack positive reviews, bury the negative reviews, right, with positivity. That also kind of highlights or speaks against
Hmm.
the negative reviews, right? So
That's a
so the
good point
positive,
too.
yeah, the
Yeah.
positive reviews should highlight, should at least people should be able to see the contrast, right?
Yeah, that's a
Oh,
great point. Like if
yeah.
someone's specifically complaining about one specific issue, try to get more reviews completely opposite of that. So then if there is somebody that's like, "Oh, well, you got this one review that's saying you don't do proper, re-roofs or whatever," it's like, well, we actually have 20 reviews over here that's saying we do an excellent job in re-roofs. So now you have the ability to combat that specific issue. So I'm glad that we mentioned that as well. That's a good point.
Yeah. So those are the four tips that we have for you guys today. Again, if you're a roofer and you really enjoyed today's episode, please remember to like and subscribe, and also click on the link in the description wherever you're consuming this content. So if you're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or TikTok, go to the description, click on that link because we have some free value stuff that if you actually do what the guide says. It's actually a guide that we have that we've created.
Yes.
We put it out there. And this guide, if you do exactly what it says, is going to optimize your presence online for your keywords. So that's all
100%.
that's all I got, Frankie. Is there anything you want to say to our viewers and listeners before we let them go?
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, check out the links also that you see on the screen here. Check out our group, right? We have a private group strictly for just roofers, the only people allowed in there. And we're dropping a bunch of great nuggets and, a lot of great, value of stuff that we're seeing that's working, including the guide that he mentioned. We have a whole masterclass on it as well. So yeah, if you want to continue to get updated with all these episodes and all these great things that we're talking about, including the episode on how to get more reviews, which we already, talked about, that is also inside of the group. So make sure that you check out that link and click out, check the description for more resources.
That's excellent. Frankie, before we let everybody go, let's tell them about the next episode. We got some value coming your way, guys.
Oh yes.
So again, roofers, pay attention because this is strictly for you guys. So the next episode, we're going to be discussing the 5 common mistakes roofers make when hiring an SEO marketing agency. You don't want to miss that episode. So make sure you tune in so you can see what the common mistakes are.
We're gonna peek behind the scenes. We're gonna take you
That's
behind the scenes,
that's right.
and you're gonna know exactly what to do and what not to do. So yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome.
Exactly. So with that said, guys, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for watching, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Awesome. Have a good one, guys.